Hello muffins, this is an analysis video for the seduction of Rachel scene. As we know, this scene is quite problematic in terms of its discourse about sexuality and power. So this scene analysis comes with a trigger warning because we are going to be discussing power dynamics in sexual relationships within this scene. So I'm going to start our analysis from this moment. You will recognize from this this screen we have the little retina kind of like flare there we see on Rachel. And then I'll just play through and I'll pause it at the moment where we see it happen with Decker as well. There we go. Did you catch it just then in his eyes as well? This is one of the moments where people who believe he is a replicant, personally, I think that he is a replicant, because otherwise how do you explain the unicorns? That little lens flare moment there is one of the moments where they say he's obviously a replicant because we can see that. We see that tell there. Okay.
Somebody would.
We have a classic sort of like film noir element here, the private detective and the femme fatale. She doesn't really exhibit many of the characteristics of the femme fatale, but she does have the look.
You know those files on me?
The smoke there in the atmosphere. See how the atmosphere looks thick?
Those things. You saw them?
That's a Ridley Scott motif. The use of chiaroscuro lighting, thick neo-noir lights.
You're a policeman.
I can look out.
Ridley Scott said she was supposed to
Test of yours.
look like...
Do you ever take that test yourself?
Oh, I love that moment. His hand held in that moment. Do you ever take the VK test yourself? A long take. Don't see his reaction, just hers.
Deckard.
She's supposed to look like Hedy Lamarr, famous star from the 1940s. That was a look that Ridley Scott specifically directed his makeup department to give her. Hedy Lamarr. It's severe. She looks like a beautiful China doll, but it's a very severe masculine look. You see that there? That angular look. With the mise-en-scène, an element of pure cinema, perhaps we have these photographs telling us that it is obsessed with memory, just like the photographs that Leon has. They're unanchored in memories, or they have ambiguous memories. The music here is what I would call 80s sexy saxophone. It's kind of similar to what you'd see in an 80s film. Now here we go. So she is starting to change her persona. She's playing music, and as she does so, the jacket comes off and reveals a much more feminine look underneath. Then the hair is going to, like, somehow that perm is hidden underneath her like her updo, and the makeup becomes softer. Now this profile shot, recognize that from Vertigo? Similar, a homage to Vertigo perhaps. So that profile shot there. And another thing that's really great about the performance here is that there's very little sort of like movement. She keeps herself very statuesque and still. She hardly even blinks. The masculine look is on the way out. The feminine look is now on the way in. Here she goes. So now we've got this high angle look. We're looking down on her, and these are long takes. We really are gaze at her, and she is doing that thing. This is the to be looked atness moment where the female character is performing this performance of femininity for the audience. That's a key element of to be looked atness. It's almost as if there's an awareness that they're being watched, and that's what Rachel exudes here, and we see Julie Madeline do that in Vertigo as well. So the blouse much more feminine, the makeup suddenly much more feminine, the hair much more feminine. The masculine element is out, the feminine look is in. This is the moment where, in a moment, we're going to see Deckard, his first attempt at seduction. Lovely reaction shot. The music here is very sweet and romantic. It's kind of got some chimes in there that are very childlike. Now, Tyrell says in the introduction scene when we're first introduced to Rachel, I'm not going to do an analysis of that scene because Ridley Scott, there's a video where he talks us through that scene. He says that the replicants are but children. They only have a short amount of time to create the memories that the rest of us take for granted. So what we're saying is, excuse me, a little yawn. Sorry, muffins. What they're saying here is that these characters, these replicants, are children. Pris exhibits this kind of like childlike quality, and so does Roy at parts. And this is one of the elements that makes this scene problematic. Now, that's the word I want you to use when you're talking about this scene. Okay, say this, it's got problematic elements to it. And one of them is that their mental age is that of children.
I drop music.
I didn't know if I could play. I remember lessons. I don't know if it's me or Terrell's niece.
You play beautifully.
So here, Deckard is attempting to be the more romantic lead. So the music has changed to a minor key to tell us that something isn't quite right here. And the cinematography, this is all going to move very fast now. Cinematography is going to go handheld to help us align with Rachel's sense of urgency, her desire to escape this situation. What's going to happen is Deckard, he's tried this sensitive romantic style. He's then going to go to this more hard-bodied action hero-esque performance that we're more used to. So what we have here is that we have two replicants, like children, who are doing a performance of gender. They don't really know how to process like these emotions, so they're performing in a way that they will see to be correct. So we have Rachel performing in a more feminine look and style, and we have Deckard who is going like hyper masculine here at this moment. So here comes handheld camera scene. Okay, this section of the scene we have in the backdrop here, we can see the lighting. We have this Venetian blind effect that is to tell us that these characters are trapped. Now, there's different levels here that we can talk about for that connotation of entrapment. So we have like Rachel physically being trapped in this location. We can bring it out to be more sort of like symbolic as well. Both of these characters are trapped in these like adult bodies, and both of them are trapped in this world. Implication of violence. He becomes dominant. She becomes submissive. He tells her what to say.
You kiss me.
I can't.
Say you kiss me.
Some people don't quite catch what she says there. She says, I can't rely on my memories. So she is aware that she is a replicant. So she's aware that her memories and emotions aren't, she has this self-awareness. He isn't aware at this point, or he's starting to suspect his replicant nature, if that's what you believe. So he continues with this performance of masculinity. So he tells her what to say. She repeats it. This is the line you've got to use, please. This is where we have blurred boundaries, blurred lines of consent. Okay, this is coercive behavior. He's telling her what to say. So this idea of consent is very difficult in this scene. It's problematic. The lines of consent are blurred. And yet the romantic music is playing over the top, and she consents to say, kiss me, all of these sort of like things back to him.
I want you.
I want you. I want you. Put your
See how
hand on me.
pause. So the camera goes behind the window, looking through them. This is quite a voyeuristic moment. So we're now, do you see we're now the other side of the window through the blinds, looking at them? Very voyeuristic. So when it becomes more sexual, more ambiguous about consent, the director chooses to take the audience back out of the action. There's a barrier now between Deckard and us. So audience have this sort of like this veil of safety from behind the blinds, safety from him. But again, it makes the scene even more ambiguous because we're now looking through these bars, the bars of the blinds, the Venetian blinds. Okay. As far as we can see in the film, Rachel doesn't really leave his apartment now. The next time we kind of see her is after he's had the big fight with Batty, and he goes back to the apartment and she's there. It's like she's been like she hasn't like left. So now that she's consented to be in a sexual relationship, she is now within the domestic space. That's where she's trapped now. She's trapped in his like house. So the woman is now domestic. So she goes from being this high-powered business suit, very masculine character, to a more feminized character, and therefore more desirable. And therefore she is now stuck in the domestic space. So that scene is really difficult to talk about in terms of these ideas about consent and these characters and their ability to give consent, and also we've got moments there where the mise en scène does the talking, and we've got some very typical auteur signatures in there as well. And what's really nice, the way the frames stop right here, is this is this shot looks just like. Do you remember the film Metropolis that we watched when we did silent cinema? So we can see the influence there of Metropolis, and this is very typically Ridley Scott, the master of spectacle, the lights, the look. The look of this film was so important, so strong, that it inspired a whole new generation of science fiction. So is Ridley Scott an auteur? He's made so many different films with so many different looks, it makes it quite difficult to track his auteur status. His science fiction are his most iconic films, such as the Alien franchise and the Blade Runner now franchise. But does that make him an auteur? I wouldn't necessarily say he is. I think he's maybe a metteur en scene, because if we're looking at a film like The Last Duel or House of Gucci, would we be able to tell that that is a Ridley Scott film? I think he's an excellent director, a very good director. When he's doing sci-fi, we can see the auteur. Well, would you know that The Martian is a Ridley Scott film, and that's a sci-fi? He's incredibly skilled, but do we see these stylistic motifs throughout his body of work? I think we see them in some of these franchises. Blade Runner and Alien, some people argue that they're in the same universe, that Alien is set in the same universe as Blade Runner, but like in the future. So it's it's a really fascinating, and the reason I love Blade Runner so much is because you can pause anywhere like this, and the aesthetic is just, to me, so beautiful. So I'm going to go in and maybe do one more little scene analysis for you guys tonight. Okay. Stop this video. Okay, muffins. See you soon.